I'll just give you some context. It's like a philosophy that's based in concepts you find in counselling.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no,
You get that?
I did the reading.
You've done your homework.
I did the reading. Okay. Just saying that, it's not as easy to draw on pop culture references for something that you've made up. Surprisingly, Hollywood hasn't bought into that yet. The charmed ones do not go around saying, we are humanistic, because they're not from Norfolk.
No.
Norfolk, UK.
Not Norfolk, West Virginia.
Exactly. People get confused.
What, with this noise coming out of this noise hole? I doubt it.
No, but I was making reference to American characters. So it would not be too much of a stretch for people to think I was talking about Norfolk, West Virginia, when referring to American characters.
That's fine. But Deanna Troi is...
Not in the charmed ones.
She's not, but she is in pop culture, and she is both a counsellor and magic.
And an empath.
So is that your root in?
True. Deanna. Isn't Deanna the name of one of the two characters in the Flight of the Conchords song about an office fling?
What?
I'm Deanna from HR, and I'm Kevin from accounting, someone like that. Yeah, it's Deanna.
I don't remember that song or show.
It's from the live performance.
So the ones that were not in the show that I watched years and years ago.
Yes, but they were on the live album that I listened to, so therefore you should know.
Obviously.
Goodness.
Well, I can't give you an answer to that now, but I'm sure Google will.
Well, yeah,
assist
and I'm sure
this.
They were singing about Deanna Troi, and they just gave Riker a different name.
So, what you're trying to say about Deanna Troi? I feel like you're leading me somewhere. Well, Deanna
Troi had a thing with Riker.
She did,
and it was rude. And many years later, Flight of the Conchords sang a song about an office romance involving a lady called Deanna, and I'm now co-opting it and saying that it was actually about Deanna Troi and Riker.
I see.
But because of the patriarchy, they protected Riker's name by changing it.
Obviously.
But not hers.
No. She wasn't the weirdest relationship in that show. I mean, she had a long-standing infatuation with Will as her ex, which probably it doesn't get explored enough, like that complicated, needy dependency that she has on him and he has on her.
But they end up together.
Yeah, but why? She was so much better with Worf.
Everyone's better with Worf.
She was so much better with Worf. But no, it was Beverly, Dr. Bev, and the Ghost.
God, I was going to say anyone's relation with Data, but yes, you're right. Beverly Crusher and a Phantasm.
Yeah. Oh, Data. Yeah, he only had one relationship with
Tasha Yar.
Tasha Yar. Yeah.
I didn't even watch this show.
What? What on earth were you doing from 1987 till 7 years later? Because I'm not going to add live on a podcast.
Playing football.
Oh, you had no life.
Two different ways to look at that.
Right, so there is a point to talking about Deanna. You got me doing it now. And this is because this is the one about humanistic magic and your struggle to find a pop culture reference for this.
Yes, and you found a pop culture reference for this, which is Dirty Deanna. Deanna Troi.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not fair on her, because her character's not like that at all. I have purely co-opted a Michael Jackson song and turned it into something else, and that's not fair.
No.
She was not written that way.
No, she was written to be the show's empath.
Yeah, and counsellor.
And counsellor.
HR rep.
Oh, I don't know if they have HR, but yeah. So she would get wheeled in whenever there was an alien that they hadn't met before, and is he being honest? Is this alien telling us the truth?
Exactly. He's just punched a wall. I sense he's angry.
Yes. And for anyone who hasn't listened to the one about divination, we kind of describe a lot more about all the different air quotes magic abilities, like empathy, is clairsentience, and stuff like that. Yeah, all the different.
Deanna Troi got mentioned in that one as well.
She is. Maybe she is this season's Yvette Fielding. For anyone who hasn't listened to season 2, Yvette Fielding sponsored the show. No, she didn't. But she does.
She bloody should have done.
She gets talked about a lot. Yeah, well, with love, but yeah.
Cool.
Anyway,
right. So yes, so the reason that Deanna Troi came up was because we're talking about humanistic magic, which is a concept that you've kind of created using Maslow and your understanding as a trained humanistic counsellor and your practice of magic and things like that. And we're trying to find the closest pop culture thing to it, which is probably Deanna Troi.
Yeah.
As the empath, as the counsellor, which is bringing, abilities as we would know them. Clairsentience. Yeah, clairsentience. Through the empathness, and then that's a word.
Okay.
And counselling, which is kind of like you've brought counselling and magical practice together for humanistic magic.
Yeah. So thank you for saying that I've invented it.
Explaining your thing for you.
No, I wasn't going to say that. It's fine. But I honestly, hand on heart, don't know if what I have done is invented something. I'm pretty sure I haven't, but I think I've just given it vocabulary, which is probably helpful enough in this world. Basically, you're right. We at Magenta School of Magic, we kind of have this philosophy that tries to be. It's so hard to explain, but it's most aligned with the way that humanistic counsellors were operating their practice, like early to mid-century, last century, not this one. We're not even there yet. We're still in the early stage. So early to mid-20th century. And I'm particularly referencing people like Maslow, Carl Rogers, and the Pearls. Fritz Pearls and Laura Pearls and Paul Goodman, who's not a Pearl.
Pearl Goodman.
He's just in the room at the time.
He's hanging out. He's like the oyster within which the pearls are found.
Sure, but you know how in the science community, where when they're all trying to write a paper together and everyone wants in on that,
you have to put your name on it.
Yeah, you want to get your name on the paper.
Right.
So even if you've just been in the room, I mean, I'm not a scientist. Hands up, who could never have guessed that? I'm not a scientist, but in my head, that's how I imagine it is. That if you just made coffee for someone that day, and you threw in a suggestion into the melting pot of science paper development, your name gets on there. So that's
why Pearl and Goodman, the lawyers from
they're not lawyers,
40s,
they're counsellors
who had a paper, and Paul Goodman, not related to Saul, did coffee making and got his name on the paper. No, he actually did some stuff. He wrote some things.
He did. I was being flippant.
You were being flippant. All of the Goodmans, his family, listening to this, like John, they're going to be mad at you.
Because they're all descendants.
Exactly. All of the Goodmans. Do you think there's a family of Badmans and that they meet up, like the Goodmans and the Badmans, and they have a rumble like once a year? That'd be amazing. Like good and bad coming together, fight it out. Can we get back to the humanistic counselling stuff?
Sure. Right.
Maslow.
Yeah, so we talk about
Carl.
it's mostly aligned to
Thingy.
Carl Rogers.
Mr.
So
Rogers.
Maslow, Carl Rogers.
Pearl and Goodman.
Yeah, Pearl and Goodman. So I don't. So those obviously those concepts exist. They had not been invented by me. They've been invented by some proper science people who went to university and learned this stuff. Yeah, they learned this stuff, and then rightly they've created a system or a model or blah blah blah. Cool. And what I've done is
8 years later, you've magpied it.
What I've done is I've aligned the practice of magic to some of those concepts.
The principles of
the principles, yeah. Exactly. So if we just look at Carl Rogers, for example, he created something called person-centered counselling.
Right.
Which 9 times out of 10, certainly in the UK, if you go for counselling, you will be getting person-centered counselling 9 times out of 10. They ask you questions and you have a conversation. It's not the kind of 1950s white coat psychiatry, tell me about your mother type stuff. If that comes up in counselling, it comes up in counselling. But it's very much a big sidestep away from Freud, basically. So person-centered counselling is based on the idea that if there are issues, you are somehow not in congruence with yourself, that everyone has the potential to be self-actualized, which kind of hooks into Maslow. So everyone has this ability, this potential. You all have potential as humans, and how do we get you there? And if there's something wrong, it's probably because you're not on the journey far enough, or you've been told to go on a different journey, like you're in a career that you don't enjoy, and it's not going to allow you to reach your full potential.
Okay.
So that's Carl Rogers.
Yeah.
Maslow.
I know him.
Abraham Maslow. Yes.
He built the pyramids in Egypt out of people's feelings.
That's right, yes. He invented triangles. No, to be fair to Maslow, he didn't invent the pyramid. It was attributed to him.
Yes. But he came up with the fundamental building blocks of human needs, the hierarchy of needs.
He did. So he has this hierarchy of needs where on the first rung of the need is the basic food, water, shelter need. And then the idea is that you are building on that. In theory, you might have that need met. You've got your food. You've ate your breakfast croissant. Now, what's the next thing along? Well,
Lego.
Well, that might be some kind of esteem need, or a behavioural need, or a cognitive need, depending on how people want to structure the pyramid.
Okay.
Because you can move through the pyramid at any point through your life, or even through any moment.
Actually, it would be football before Lego.
Football before Lego. That's on your personal
Then money,
pyramid.
because you need money to buy the Lego
You do.
that comes above it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anything else.
So Maslow had this
Music,
idea.
you'd need music, obviously, but I feel like that's a wraparound.
So Maslow had this idea that you are building on your needs, and he had this pyramid structure attributed to him, with the idea that at the top of the pyramid is transcendence or self-actualization.
Okay.
So not unlike Carl Rogers with his, you all have this ultimate potential that you can strive for. Maslow had the same idea, sort of, we're all striving to be amazing at life, winning at life, and as long as we've had like the shelter needs, the money needs, the cognitive needs, the belonging needs, as long as we had those met, we will get there.
You've got the opposite. So it was part of the principle then that you can't really achieve these higher things if you don't have your base needs.
That was Maslow's idea. It's not something I fully subscribe to.
So you can have Lego without food and shelter?
Yeah.
I suppose you could build a shelter out of Lego.
And I say this because there are obviously different approaches. People have very different levels of resilience. That when you imagine somebody like, let's go with somebody who's really rich, Elon Musk. He's not the richest man in the world, but he's very wealthy. The idea being that he should have moved through those rungs of the ladder because he's got his basic needs met, but potentially he may not have. No, I'm not saying anything about him, but he may not have his belonging needs met or his cognitive needs met. He may not be self-actualized, but he's got loads of money, so he must be. And everyone's got this lens of what.
Right.
But there are people in the world who don't have what in the West we would call the basic need of clean running water and regular access to food, and yet they could certainly be more self-actualized. So Carl Rogers, Maslow were all about being the whole of you. So absolutely, you be you.
How have you applied this to magical practice?
Right, it's a bit bonkers, so please bear with me. So the pyramid that was attributed to Maslow, I've sort of co-opted that.
Right.
I've had that.
Yeah, that's mine now.
Mine now, because I think certainly in magic it provides a useful framework for even just something simple like the kind of spells that you might cast. So are you trying to improve your self-confidence? So you might want to cast a spell about confidence. Where does that sit on the Maslow chart? Similar, a lot of magical practitioners will be interested in protection spells. Where does that sit on this Maslow hierarchy? Generally speaking, with the magic that we practice here at Magenta, we're focusing, yes, selfishly, on ourselves, because that's fine, but also
person-centered
magic. But also we are concerned with the community, like the magical community, the geographic community where we live, the work-based community, and just how can we, I don't know, improve our situation and their situation when we're out there.
So you've kind of attributed different blocks to a version of the hierarchy. Yeah. How are you using colours as well on this?
Right.
Because we talked about correspondences and colours and magic and stuff.
Yeah. So the colours that when we're looking at the hierarchy, I have coloured in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, basically. But to be fair, if you like Google Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you will see a triangle
and
like in the images.
Colours,
yeah. There will be. It's just not weird for me to have done this. So, and no one has agreed. Oh, right, the bottom rung is always yellow or whatever. It's just, what does the consultant that you have hired to come into your workplace?
How have you coloured this?
How have they decided
the image
to
you stole
this?
from Google Images?
Yeah.
What have they got?
Exactly. But what I've done is, right, this connects back to something that we may have talked about in season 2, all around, so the one about gatekeeping, where we've talked about how appropriated Western magic may or may not be. And I think we did talk quite a lot about that in that episode. So the reason why I've coloured in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I use those colours for those kinds of spells, is because the idea behind the Hindu concept of chakras kind of makes me uncomfortable. Now, people may be familiar with the Hindu concept of chakras and how the Newtonian light spectrum has been overlaid that onto those chakras as a concept.
Right.
So, for example, if you were to Google chakras or chakra colours, 9 times out of 10 you're going to get an image that has like a red circle at your feet, a purple circle like kind of at your forehead, and like the rainbow
green and
in the middle. Okay, so this isn't because chakras are that colour. It's not even because the Hindu concept of chakras has given them those colours. In the 1920s, a fella called C.W. Leadbeater wrote a book and he coloured them in. I mean, he was a guy living in India in the 1920s. He's a white guy living in India in the 1920s. So this was colonial times.
See footnote 1, colonialism.
Yeah, so it just makes me uncomfortable. Now, I'm not saying, witches, you have to stop doing that. It isn't that.
It's a personal choice.
Absolutely, a personal choice for us here at Magenta, that I don't want to keep perpetuating that. Me personally, I would rather use a colour correspondence to something that speaks to me. I'm not a Hindu. I don't practice the chakra opening thing that I guess a lot of Western people think they are doing. I don't know. I don't do it, so I don't know. But to be overlaying that, if I want to practice something to do with love, that's my heart, so that therefore I have to use a green crystal or whatever. I couldn't in good conscience keep doing that. Yeah.
You've taken colours that mean something to you, correlated to the different aspects of it. And so if someone wanted to do something similar like this themselves, so they were practicing on a similar principle, they wouldn't have to like look at the things that you've done and go, right, so this colour means this colour. They too could just put their own colours that's important to them.
Yeah.
It's not here is your standard operating procedure for management of humanistic magic. No, this is a principle.
Yeah.
Make it work for you.
Exactly. Oh my goodness, I can't stress that enough, that colours are so psychologically charged that, I mean, they are overlaid with cultural influence, absolutely. Here in the West, if a lady wants to get married, she wears a white dress. That's a cultural expectation. In a different culture, it's a different colour, and we all get that. Colours mean different things, absolutely, to different people for different reasons. Oh my goodness, please just don't Google what is the right colour to cast a protection spell and leave it at that. You listen to your own instinct. What does that colour mean to you?
Listen to one of your Claires.
Yeah, listen to Claire. She will tell you what that colour, a yellow candle, just putting it out there, what would you use that for? Is it for health? Is it for relationships? Is it for protection? It's all up to you. It's definitely all up to the individual, just on the colour thing. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So do you want to talk a bit more about actual practice of humanistic magic?
Yes. Do you mean like more than just casting spells, or just weave it all in?
Yeah, weave it all in.
Weave it all in.
Give it some.
All right. So humanistic magic is a philosophy. So it's a belief. It's not the to use your phrase, it's not necessarily the standard operating procedure. It's not the rules, because people may be familiar, if you've listened to the season 2, the one about astral magic, that's the kind of air quotes rules that we follow. for when to do a thing.
Right. Okay.
The humanistic magic is more like the philosophy. And this is because it's not a religion, but I would like it to, so I would like the magic that I practice to have some resonance somewhere.
I wasn't sure where
Why is that hilarious?
I just wasn't sure where that sentence was going. It's not a religion, but I would like it to be one.
She's not the Messiah.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, but that's not what you said. It's just you paused at the right point, and that's where it felt like it was coming in.
No.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So a lot of the olden day magical type religions, like the Golden Dawn and Thelema, they are quite, I don't know, heavy with their dogma.
Quite prescriptive.
Oh, yeah. Certainly with Thelema, the idea behind that is do what thou wilt, which is basically you have to do everything in accordance with your soul purpose.
Right.
You shouldn't be doing magic for protection if that is not in alignment with your soul purpose. That's kind of Thelema.
Okay.
But already I can see the parallels between something like Thelema, do what thou wilt. You have to do things in alignment with your soul purpose. It's not too dissimilar to Carl Rogers and Maslow. What is your full potential?
Exactly.
Let's get you there.
But what if you don't know?
You don't know your soul purpose.
Exactly. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
That's okay. It's okay, because with Magenta, the magic, the philosophy side of it still draws on Maslow with the idea that magic can absolutely be practiced for all of that mundane stuff, like, can I have some more money, please? Can I be better at my job, please? Rather than the Thelema of kind of Carl Rogers, only your potential.
My purpose in the world.
Yeah, and it's part of learning what that is,
right,
that comes through that kind of exploration of yourself that I like to practice. For anyone who hasn't subscribed, at magentaschoolofmagic.com, but every Friday subscribers will get a meditation every Friday that is about personal growth. The meditations are kind of secular. They're not, oh, you are in a forest and you could... I mean, some of it is that, to set the scene of the actual work is coming. I love that. Yeah. But certainly the meditations that are released on a Friday, they are secular. They're a mix of all of this counselling idea. It's like you're listening to the meditation, it will take you to a place that's nice and safe, because that's important, but then it'll be, right, that issue that's up with you, we're going to go look at that, look at the issue, look at the issue. You're not looking at the issue, look at the issue. Look at the issue. And let's ask some questions and kind of unpack that. Relying on things that we talked about last time, with the one about divination, about your clear seeing, your clear listening, all of that stuff.
Yep.
Asking the questions through the meditation so that the information comes through.
This is kind of like taking you to a place of calm, inner peace.
Yeah.
Where you can look at things using these different skills and techniques without necessarily some of the baggage that you might have brought with you on a day-to-day basis. So if I had an issue and I'm just trying to work through it, I might not necessarily get to the same place or the same conclusion I would have if I calmed, terrible phrase, but centered myself, did some kind of meditation or something, and just sort of just let my body take over a bit, and give myself space to think about it rather than being pressured by the issue itself. Yes,
and to your earlier point of, I don't know what my sole purpose is, certainly some of the meditations that we've released in the past have been about what what are your values? What are your beliefs? How can you be in alignment with that? And it's working through listening to the meditation, the questions that get asked, the visualizations that are presented through the meditation in order to try to get there. So you've got some idea of what your soul purpose could be, or your full potential, or how you might self-actualize, using whatever words you want to use. But that's some of how we practice the magic here at Magenta. So we've got an overlay of how we work with spells is astral magic. You know, we time the magic. The one about astral magic explains in there about why that's important, as well as in season 2 we talked about the one about the psychology of magic, where astral magic you have to plan, and in that planning, in that waiting for the right moment, your brain is priming itself to like put the solution out there. I want the thing, you've put it out there, and now you are working towards it. So the astral magic side is the rules, wait for the planet to be in the right house with all the right stuff.
That was the one that I just couldn't get I completely misunderstood it, and I needed to go outside and meditate.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it connects to the structure. So is your spell going to be about a basic need on Maslow's hierarchy? Is it going to be about a cognitive need? Is that because you want to learn something new? Is it a belonging need? Is it because you want to find a connection with someone, improve your relationship? And that it's just a framework to make some of this make sense and have a bit more structure in a way that, for me personally, moves away from some of the more co-opted religious aspects that actually don't come from the West. They've been begged, borrowed and stolen from other cultures like Judaism and Hinduism, and any number of other Eastern and indigenous North American type spiritual belief systems, which I'm not connected to that. So I don't want to be part of the continued issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
Cultural appropriation is bad.
Yeah, and it's just it opens up a whole thing. It is a whole thing on the internet.
I think we had an episode about this in
we
season 2
did
as well.
Yeah, so it was the one about gatekeeping, and
there's
a whole
a few
thing.
articles about it as well on the site.
So that is kind of how we apply humanistic approaches to magic
in conjunction with the other bits and pieces you've talked about, like the timing and all the other stuff. So it's all works together.
Yeah, and it's really hard to kind of explain how it works together, because
fortunately you do have some articles on the site.
I do, yes. Oh my goodness, please do go and read the articles. I'll put them in the show notes as well, so that you've got easy access to that in a more kind of structured narrative rather than my verbiage.
Your ramblings whilst being distracted by an idiot making jokes.
It's fine. This is my life.
Is there anything else you think people should know, be aware of, consider, ways to reassure them? Because this might have been a bit difficult to understand, but because it's potentially a relatively new concept to some people, but also because the idiot with the jokes has been interrupting an awful lot.
I don't think you're an idiot with jokes.
I'm not sure. What? So I'm not an idiot, but also they're not jokes.
Yeah.
They're just annoying interruptions. They're not funny. You can't class those as jokes. What are you talking about? Loser. You're a tool. It's been a lovely show.
I guess part of it is it is a hard concept, because the actual definition of magic is not even universally agreed upon anyway. So for me, magic is a philosophy, humanistic, and art, astral, to make change happen. Now, some practitioners are not really bothered about that bit, like they just want the bippity boppity boo, which is everyone's personal choice.
Yeah,
you can have that.
Lots of people like the ceremonial aspect of it, don't they? They like the doing of something.
Yeah, and they don't want to wait. They don't want to have to wait for a Thursday when Jupiter is in the 10th house or any of that, and that's fine.
No.
But I would just urge people to at least have a definition of what magic means to them. Is it a philosophy? Is it an art? For me, it's both, and both are just as important. I've got to have a rationale. I've got to have a reason. Why am I doing this? Well, the reason is to make a change happen. What is the change? Well, the change could be a change in how I see myself, a change in career, a change in personal circumstances. I like more money or whatever it is. So to make a change happen, and the bit that kind of makes it all magic is that unseen cause, that unseen thing, that marvelous bit of synchronicity that happens, or that lovely unexpected arrival. It's that, and
then it's recognizing it when it comes as being, that's how it's manifested.
Yeah, exactly. And some people don't want to have a more secular belief system, and that's fine. They are more interested in the religious side. Maybe they are Wiccan or Thelemites, if that's a thing, or they are at least calling upon some spiritual entity or a deity or something to help them with their practice, and that's all fine. I guess from my perspective, all of that kind of made me a bit uncomfortable. I'm not Wiccan. I'm not trying to be a follower of Thelema, certainly not any member of the Golden Dawn or any of that, and I just wanted to leave those practices in the past, because like we talked about with the colour correspondences, some of what is practiced over there it makes me uncomfortable from
stolen it from others,
from the perspective of, well, where is this from really, because they kind of all bled into one another, and I'm not the greatest fan of the Golden Dawn or how they went about the world in the 19th century. So I am assured that my made up practice is, at least I know where it's come from, and I can say that idea came from this fella, that idea came from this couple, and together it's formed to provide a framework for me.
Yeah.
And anyone who wants to come and practice really in what we do.
And that's some of the stuff that's on the site available for people to look at.
Yeah, so that's the best bit. So so two things. The Magic Discovered course, a lot of the humanistic aspect is woven in, and it's never, like, it's not a module in and of itself that says, oh, this is the module on humanistic magic and Carl Rogers is this fellow. You won't find that in it, no.
Nor will you find that narration either.
No. What the Magic Discovered course does get into is a lot of the astral stuff, so the actual art bit of the magic. Whereas,
the how, the why.
Yeah, and the philosophy comes from all of the modules that talk about a personal development aspect or psychologically speaking aspect. That's kind of, it's not a module of itself, it's just it's the bedrock
Yep.
of all 12 or 11, 12 modules that make up that course. So that's one thing. But then the other thing is signing up to the website. So like I said, every Friday people will get a meditation. That is all free, by the way. So I just ask in exchange for your email address, please. And then you'll get them in your inbox. So every Friday you get a guided meditation, which is a secular meditation aimed at some personal development outcome. So everybody gets one, and you can pick and choose. I don't really want to do that. I don't need that.
You don't have to, just because it turns up in your inbox, you don't have to do it.
No, I'm not monitoring you. Oh, so and so hasn't done blah blah blah. Yeah, no, it's up to you. So every Friday you get the meditation. Every Wednesday there will be more, that everyone gets like a long form article, of which most, if not all, of what we talk about here on the podcast, that's where it started from. So that's where it comes from. So you get a long form article either about tarot, Lenormand, humanistic magic, astral magic, divination, all kinds of different magical aspects every Wednesday.
About Deanna Troi.
No, that's just because you are my co-host. And you bring this extra layer of fun.
Guest article.
Yeah.
Deanna Troi, and why she's so important to Humanistic Magick.
She is important. And then on a Monday, people get a free download of a spell that is how the Humanistic Magick and the astral magic is evident in the real world, if that makes sense. Yep. So they'll get a video, you can watch it. The videos are like no time at all.
30 seconds.
if that. So they're definitely less than 1 minute. So yeah, a spell under a minute, you watch the magic hands as they prepare a spell, and then that is also a download for people to just have and keep. So it's all packaged together. It's just I've never had the opportunity to kind of explain it in a how does it all come together, and I'm never very good at explaining it verbally. Does that show?
Is that your explainy voice, your like narration? You kind of defaulted to something a little bit like this a couple of times now. Is that how you teach people?
No. And if people don't believe me, you can get to look at the preview of the course.
I like the idea of your
I've got my arms folded now.
Sorry. You're in a forest. All is calm and peaceful.
I do have a meditation voice.
Yeah, it's not that one though.
No, it isn't that one,
No, it's not
but
that one.
it is following the way I was taught. All right. Did you have any other questions?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered quite a lot in this one. Admittedly, top-heavy idiotness. So you might want to timestamp this one for people if you want to skip past my jibber jabber and get into the meat of it. Go to point. Like 30 minutes in.
Do you know what? Nobody has written in to complain about the cold openers or the jibber jabber or the dad jokes.
Is that because nobody's written in?
I have had people write to me with other suggestions about things that we could do here at Magenta, but
cool.
yeah, I don't know if I'm there yet not with receiving suggestions. Absolutely, write to me.
You need to get into what they're talking about a bit more.
Yeah, so so one of the suggestions was setting. I think the corresponder said wanted a community.
Mm-hmm.
So was I going to create a community? It's like, I hadn't thought about
a community of practice type thing.
Yeah, where
like-minded people could come together.
Exactly, to discuss, I'm presuming, the things that we do here at Magenta rather than just all
any
magic.
old stuff.
Because then it's less...
Star Trek.
I don't know if we would have like a Star Trek thread, but we could do.
Wouldn't it be awful if someone had got in touch with you because they want to talk about the pop culture stuff and not the stuff that you've worked so hard to put together?
I'm open to all suggestions about all things, and anything about pop culture I will just get you to answer.
Fair enough.
So this particular person wanted a community, and I'm not ruling it out. I'm so conscious.
Think about how to do it.
Yeah, because I've played around with Discord in the past, and I'm not sure I can create the safe environment that I think people that follow what we do deserve, to be honest. And then when I look at things like Reddit, which I do occasionally comment on some of the Reddit. Yeah, and I wouldn't want to just replicate that experience and then just host it on the website. And so I do need to think about, well, what is that going to look like really to give people a safe place that maybe isn't available currently. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think the upshot of that is that please do get in touch if you have suggestions or the things you want to learn more about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even if you want less pop culture and stupidity.
I don't want less stupidity. All right, that's it. That is our show. So that's it. That's our show. If you liked it, give us a rating and review, share with others, tell your friends. You'll find all our contact stuff over at magentaschoolofmagic.com, including our social media and links to the Magic School itself.